Also, I can just stand up
We
here,
got your
really,
attention.
just look at everybody, hi. Yeah. So, I wanna just take a moment and welcome you to our 4th annual Candidates Night here at the library. I'm actually very excited to say that this is our 4th, because that means I've been here 5 years since we started this. Thank you, that was very nice and unexpected. But yeah, I've been really happy and proud to serve in the town of Newington, and I want to just talk about this program for just a moment, because it's such a good example of why I enjoy working in Newington. When I started here, I've been here about a year, and in that time, I got asked a few different times, why don't we have a candidates night here in town, and why doesn't the library do it? And I said, well, it might be a little soon to take that on because I just started, but I knew that some libraries did do candidates nights, and so about year 2, my trustees and I talked about it and decided that this was a great opportunity to be part of not just what we like to think of ourselves as the community center of the town, but also a place where we can educate and inform. So it fits right into our mission statement here. And one of the things that makes this such a great program for Newington is that I noticed right out of the gate that Newington is an unusually civically active town. There are always a lot of people that want to run for seats in Newington, and that's not always the norm. I saw that for myself on my board of library trustees. Since I started here, we've always had essentially a 7-person board with 5 board members and 2 alternates, which is a lot for a small town. And whenever I go to the library co-op meetings, they all say, how are you doing it? How are you recruiting that many people? And I'm like, well, one thing I might, maybe I'm nice to work with, but frankly, it's mostly Newington, it's this town really loves to serve. And so I just need to thank you for that, because it's a pleasure to work in a town like this. And also thank you for this awesome turnout. All right, so having that said, let me just tell you a little bit about the format of the evening. First of all, I'm going to go through an attendance list, make sure I know who's here, because I'm going to call you to the podium, when it's your turn. Just to give you a heads up, I'm going in the order that you're listed on the ballot. So Lord Ted is in the hot seat. And the way that this will work is each candidate will have 5 timed minutes, and I will give you a signal when it's 2 minutes. I'll probably just do this, so when you have 2 minutes left, and then I'll do a 15-second warning, which will look like this, which will hopefully catch your eye, and that means you're getting pretty close to the end. And I do want to say that your 5 minutes does include any questions people want to ask. So you will still have time to mingle at the end of the program if you have further questions that don't fit in that 5-minute period for each person, but we just want to make sure that everyone gets a chance to speak. And if we have, some folks may get a ton of questions, and that would allow them to speak far more than the other folks, and we just want to make sure we get through all those before we move on. So I will say that we limited this just to the candidates that were on the ballot, but I am going to say I know that there's at least one write-in candidate here tonight. Is there anyone else? No other write-ins. Okay, so I do feel comfortable saying that we have a write-in candidate who's here tonight, but I'm not allowing her to speak because we wanted to limit it to folks on the ballot. But if you have questions for her afterward, please feel free. Okay, so without further ado, actually no, a little more ado. Hang on just a moment. I forgot to mention that I really do need to let everybody know that we are being recorded tonight, which anyone is actually more than welcome to record public meetings in public buildings, and that is what this is. But I was given a heads up that we would be recorded tonight, and that's always something we need to inform the audience of. So consider yourselves informed. And also, I'm just going to run through this list. So if you could just raise your hand when I get to your name. Selectman Ted Connors. Fire Engineer Mike Patnaud.
Right here.
Hi Mike, could you just pronounce your last name for me?
Patnaud, you did it
Patnaud,
perfectly.
okay, perfect. Fire Engineer Ann Highland Hebert. Police Commissioner Brenda Blonigan. Police Commissioner William Wright. And I should add that Police Commissioner Brenda Blonigan is running for a 3-year term and William Wright is running for a 1-year term. I do have Sewer Commissioner Tom Hazelton listed here. I don't believe he plans to come tonight. So same with Trustee of the Trust Fund Jennifer Malstay. Planning Board Russell Cook.
He's apologizes, he's not feeling well and can't be
Okay,
here.
all right. Planning Board James Weiner, he did tell me that he apologized and would also be not able to attend tonight. Planning Board Chris Cross. Budget Committee Alan Wilson. Budget Committee Brandon, sorry, I skipped one, but I'm gonna say it anyway, Brandon Arsenal. Now, I'm putting you on the spot, but did I hear that you didn't want to speak tonight?
No need, yeah.
Okay,
We're probably
so-
better off.
Everyone should just. If you have questions for Brandon afterwards, feel free, because he'll be here, but he won't, he didn't want to speak tonight, but I saw him come in, so I had to put him on the spot. All right, Budget Committee, James Belanger, he's another one that said he was apologized, he could not make it tonight. Moderator, Jack O'Reilly. Supervisor of the, I didn't have a person for that. Library Trustee, Peter Welch. Cemetery Trustee, Cosmas Ayakavazi, I think I pronounced that right. I didn't think.
You did pretty good.
And I knew he wasn't coming tonight, so. Okay, so that's the order we're going to go in, and I know who's here, and then so now I can hopefully not list anybody or call on anybody who isn't actually here tonight. So without further ado, I would like to invite Ted Connors, who's running for selectman, up to the podium. And any of you who get dry while you're speaking, which includes me, because I'm going to grab one of these, feel free to help yourself to the water.
Thank you. Thank you,
so
Laura.
much.
Thank you very much for inviting me here this evening. The trustees of the library and staff, I want to thank you also. Liz and I have been in Newington since 1981. I have 2 children who grew up here, and now we're the proud grandparents of 9. When they come home, the first place they want to come is the library. They think this is the best library in the world, and they've lived all over, and they enjoy the books, the festivities, and the politeness and the courtesy of all the staff. I'm seeking my 2nd term as a selectman. I enjoyed the first term very much. I think we've accomplished some things, and I'll go over a few of them. And I look forward to working. I have worked with 3 selectmen, Mike Marconi, Ken Ladshaw, and Jan Stewart, and enjoyed the relationships I've had with all of them during that period of time. And we would like to thank the dedicated staff at the town hall who puts in untiring hours and work to make things work well. But most of all, it's the volunteers in this town. The volunteers who work on the different boards and commissions and like that make the town great. We're very fortunate, as alluded to, all our boards are just about full. We have very active participation, and the work that they produce and come up with make this town much easier, from the historic to the recreation, to the zoning boards, to the planning boards, and to everything, police commission, fire engineers, etc. It's quite an accomplishment, and thank you all very much for your dedicated service. Some of the issues that were worked on this past year, one of the big things is water. We work on the drinking water. We work very closely with the state of New Hampshire DES. We work for the drinking water in 40 wells that we have in town. Some of them have been contaminated. We've converted them over. There's still a big, what is the right number? Is it 70? Is it 40, 14? Is it 50? Whatever it is, that's still, but we're working on that and trying to take care of it. It's very difficult to work with the Air Force and the people in charge of the water. you give you good lip service, but we're not getting a lot of action. And that really disturbs me, and we pound on it all the time at the Restoration Advisory Board meetings. We've had good success with New Hampshire Fish and Game. A lot of people are taking vows for that now, but it was the selectmen who initiated this and getting them down here to do a control in the fall. They killed 15 deer during the hunting season and then on the Pease Reservation. And they took the deer, checked their livers and their other organs, submitted them to the University of Connecticut Medical area, and they all came back, 14 of them came back fine, with no problems in any of their organs. One was way out of line, but they figured that was a contaminated one. Somehow something happened. But it's good because a lot of people had asked them, what's the story of the water conditions, deer eating it and eating all the others. So we're in good control on that. We meet at PDA with those officials. We meet with the Restoration Advisory Board and go over all of the quarterly with them and get bulletins all along on what's going on with water and like that. We work with the Historic District Commission has worked with the state. We're working on trying to make some kind of agreement on oh, thank you. I thought you give me the peace sign. I'm glad she goes from south with 2 fingers. We're working and then hopefully to get Bloody Point back. It's been belonged to the town, to the state, on the bridge and this and that. So we're trying to get some funds out of that to restore that and make it a historical area and get some money maybe for the Stone School and the historic area up here. We'll work on many other avenues and like that. I just got the list here that I'll just try to touch on. Spring energy has been a problem with us lately with the odors and the smells coming out of there on that end of town. And when the weather and the wind is blowing, we're working with them. We're working with the state of New Hampshire on that. Coakley landfill is an ongoing. We signed an agreement years ago. We got 30 or 50 or 100 years. We don't know how long it's going to take to clean all that up. But we're paying the bonds off at about $30,000 a year. And anytime the EPA comes up with a new solution or something that's going on, we have to chip in and pay, and that's another $30,000. So we're paying $50,000 to $60,000 a year, right off the top of Coakley landfill, which I don't think is going to go away in a hurry. We've started a tree program. We've hired a forester to go through the Newington Farmers and establish a management plan. We're working on the building next door, the meeting house, to take care of restoration there, work on the police station this coming year and sealing it. And we're doing a lot of things and trying to keep on top of all the problems that are in the town. None of the magnitude, but it all takes time. We've got dedicated people working on it.
Okay, that's it. Ken, you're up.
Hold on, one last thing. Please give me a vote. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, Mike Patnod.
Ed, I'm not going to be as long-winded as you. But I'd like to introduce myself, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Patnod. We live at 65 Nimble Hill Road, my wife Robin and I. And we joined this community really because we enjoy small town actions, just like this. This is beautiful. I mean, it's wonderful. And I would really appreciate me being able to give some of my service back to the town, because we've been inundated with just happiness just being here. So, you know, my wife and I, we've raised 4 children. We have 4 grandchildren, not 9 yet.
Catching up.
Yeah, not yet. But we enjoy family life, and I like the small town community business. I was raised in a small town in Tewksbury, Massachusetts. I was one of 108 first cousins. My father's father was one of 24, my mother was one of 12. And, yeah, and so you went through town just like doing that. Hello. I just want to say the first thing is, my first and foremost feeling is the safety of our fire department means more than anything here. You know, I think we need to bring them up to speed, but we have to do it at an affordable cost. You know, so you know we can't go out and just shoot from the hip and say, oh, we're gonna put a room in that's gonna cost $125,000. No, that's not the answer. The answer is you send it out to bid, and you also, with hands-on technology like I have, you interview them personally. You put your time in. You put your time by yourself and with your family. You know, I'm sure my wife, she's probably saying, "Oh boy, another project." But honestly, I just think that we can do so much better as far as watching how we spend, as long as people just want to dedicate their time, not just to stand here at the podium, to stand here and look at you and say, I really want to do something good for the town. And that's what I want to do. I'm not going to take a bunch of this time up, but first and foremost, I'm here for the fire department, and I'm here for the taxpayers' dollar, to make sure we don't spend frivolously.
You have 2 minutes left. Does anyone want to ask any question?
Yeah. What does a fire engineer do?
Fire engineer oversees the fire department and the fire department spending, and they look at their budget, and they speak with the chief, and it's kind of the first and foremost spot of the fire department, I would say. So.
Anything else for Mike?
Mike, have you served on any other town positions?
I have. I was on the planning board in the town of Tewksbury. Oh gosh, probably 7 years running, and then after that, I was on the board of trustees of it was a fireman squad, is what it was called.
How long have you been in town?
Oh, we purchased our property about 2 years ago now, and we moved in February 15th, I think, last year.
A year ago.
A year.
So you're one of the new houses off of Newington.
Right, yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate your vote.
Dan Highland Hebert.
Good evening. My name is Ann Highland Hebert, and I am asking for your vote to remain on the Board of Fire Engineers, having been appointed to complete the term of Ruth Fletcher. I've been a resident of Newington for over 25 years, and watching the changes in our town has offered ample and necessary perspective as to what is needed and not needed to provide the highest level of fire and emergency medical services with equal weight given to cost always. My oversight is shaped by having participated in 25 town meetings and steadily following various boards and related issues over the years. I hold a bachelor's degree and master's degree. My professional career includes many years in education, business administration, and tax accounting. I owned a small business for a very long time and understand the challenges of doing so in varied economic conditions. My skill set incorporates fiscal and operational management, as well as collaborative teamwork. I bring a value-based approach to all budget matters. 2019 was a pivotal year for the fire department. I offer you measurable results which speak directly to my stewardship. With my contributions, the fire department ended fiscal year 2019 with all budgeted expenses and some unanticipated expenses paid from our budget. In addition, we were able to return a small sum of money to the general fund. In fiscal year 2019, the fire department contributed $142,472.80 in revenues back to the town from permits, fees, and details. That amounts to about 8% of our budget. 2020 revenue contributions are running close to the same. Coinciding with a leadership change at the fire department, the Board of Selectmen requested an audit for 12 months, October 18 to October 19. The Board of Fire Engineers expanded that time frame by an additional 9 months to commence January 2018. Auditors noted 6 policy and/or procedure items needing improvement. The Board of Fire Engineers and Chief Hoyt had already identified these same items internally and implemented corrective action starting in January 2019, 10 months prior to the audit being completed and issued. A copy of the audit is available from the Fire Station Town Hall or from me tonight. Hiring your fire chief and assistant chief is critical to long-term success and sound fire service and fiscal management. I participated in the selection of our chief, a 26-year veteran whose talent and leadership has proved instrumental in establishing and advancing short and long-term goals. I also participated in hiring our assistant chief, Pat Moynihan, a 16-year veteran and a nationally registered paramedic. Quantitatively, I support departmental improvements with a steady eye toward best practices. One current focus includes forward-thinking technological initiatives to support excellence in emergency services and cost savings. The fire department has improved secure communications while reducing our carbon footprint by going paperless. One example is our vehicle inspection and maintenance records. More paperless conversion is anticipated. Qualitatively, I support a culture of professionalism and inclusion. Upon entering the fire department, this atmosphere is now evident. Training costs are a significant investment in our first responders. A workplace that cultivates loyalty and employee retention yields top-notch first responders with invaluable institutional knowledge of our town. Board of Fire Engineers consistently meets on the first Wednesday of every month at the fire station at 6 p.m. Everyone is, of course, welcome. In recent months, we've had 2 swearing-in ceremonies, promotion ceremonies honoring our first responders, as well as coffee with the chiefs, all very well attended. Community engagement is vital and more is planned. Accountability and experience matter. Thank you for your past confidence in me. I ask for your vote to ensure that successful, cost-effective fire department operations continue well into the future through my guidance as a fire engineer. Thank you.
You have 15 seconds left. Does anyone have one question for you?
How many people are on the engineer board?
There are 3. There is John Clanchester, he is a firefighter. James Fabrizio, he is a plumber, he owns his own business, and myself. And 2 chiefs, a full-time chief of the department, and an assistant chief of the department. 8 full-time firefighters and 7 part-time firefighters. We run 4 shifts. They work 48 hours at a stretch.
Okay, that was
Okay.
time. Thank you.
Good information. I didn't know.
Brenda Flanagan.
We're not gonna be 5 minutes, and I don't have all the statistics. Here you go. Brenda Flanagan, I am running for police commissioner. I have served the last 2 years as police commissioner. I filled in for the vacancy that Ken Latchop made when he actually became selectman. I have been a resident of the town of Newington since 1983, starting in what used to be the mobile home park of the base. Some of you may not remember that, some of you may remember that. And then we moved into our current home on Hamel Lane in 1991, so we've been residents since 1983. I have worked with the chief for the past 2 years and have thoroughly enjoyed that. We have done some hiring, we have been doing some personnel issues. But I think we have a very professional police department. I have 20 years as a Rockingham, well, not 20 years as Rockingham County, I retired as Rockingham County Deputy Sheriff, a sergeant with the Sheriff's Department. I did have police experience as a security police in the Air Force for 7.5 years prior to that. And I was in the Air National Guard, retiring after 34 years in 2014. And I did, in the Air Force, I did a lot of budgetary personnel issues. I reached the rank of E9, which is the top rank that I could have reached, and I was what was called the Wing Command Chief, which I was the person over personnel, all of the enlisted personnel in the Air National Guard, and that kind of dealt with a lot of personnel issues, as you well know. And, well, maybe you don't know, but it's. So, you do now. But yes, I do ask for your vote. I would love to serve for another 3 years. We have a lot of things that are going on in our police department, and we certainly welcome everyone. We meet the first Tuesday of every month at 4 p.m. at the police department. You're welcome to come. It's kind of boring, but you know, we could bore you to death, but so that's it. Is there any questions? Because that's about all I have. Yes, ma'am.
I'll make a statement. It's nice that you are initiating a 5K race to honor Darren Saban, and we thank you.
Thank you very much.
I definitely won't run,
And that's
but I
March,
will.
that's on, we take walkers and runners, and we also take volunteers, and that's on March 29th for those of you that don't know. And I think it's gonna be in the Newington neighbor pretty soon, but yes.
Thank you.
Any questions? All right, thank you very much.
William Wright.
Good evening, everybody. My name is actually Bill Wright, and I'm running for the 1-year term police commissioner position. I was appointed by the Board of Selectmen to fill in last summer when a vacancy came open, so I've been doing that for a while now. My wife Norma and I live at 6 Lydia Lane. One of the reasons why I came tonight, despite running uncontested, I thought it'd be a good idea to see some of the faces and for you to see me. I've lived in the town almost 4 years now, but I know most of the people here, but not everybody. So we've, in the last 6 months, I've thoroughly enjoyed being on the police commission. Chief Bilodeau runs a great department. It's kind of interesting. I don't think everybody in the town truly appreciates what the police do in our town. It's a sleepy little town. This side of the highway, the other side of the highway, as many of you know, many of you don't know, is it gets pretty complicated for a police force with the industrial clients that they support, the mall area. And I think I've heard Chief quote, on any given day, there's 40,000 people that come through this little town of Newington. So the police have a challenging job. We've done, in the 6 months I've been on the force, I think you can be pretty pleased with what's going on with the police force. It's running very smoothly. Our job on the commission is to establish the rules, make sure we enforce the rules, we hire, fire, engage in personnel actions if that's necessary. We help put together the budget and make sure they comply with the budget. And this last year, we did a great job with doing all those things. My experience, I did about 20 years in the Army. Like Brenda, I was in the service, did another 20 years working in the private sector and public sector. Done a whole variety of things, but a lot of my skills are very relevant for this position. I left some information out here for you to look at. I think it's important to note that we serve without compensation. $0. Not like the big bucks that you guys get. But I wanted to highlight a few things that we did work on and accomplish in the short time that we were there. One of the things that we've noticed was that our policemen, particularly the patrolmen on the force, are pretty underpaid in comparison comparison to the rest of the police forces in the area. So we began to take steps to kind of catch folks up in that area, because it can almost be more costly to not fairly compensate your policemen, just the cost to bring them on board, train them, and keep them. So we took care of that this year. We built the department budget, and you'll all be voting on that in just a few days. We recruited a new patrolman, adopted, promoted several modernization activities in the force. It's, again, Chief Bilodeau, I think, is trying to bring the force in line with the standards that we need. This fingerprinting system, we're still dipping fingers in ink, mailing the results in, and finding out a couple weeks later, if you've caught a criminal or not. So we're getting an electronic system so you can very quickly determine if you've got a bad guy or not, and several other activities. So I think that's enough. I just appreciate your vote on the 10th. Anybody have any questions? I'd be happy to address them.
You've got 15 seconds, so one question.
I got a question, Bill. Where are we with the status of the police department? Chief wanted us to get certified. Accredited, I'm sorry.
Chief's right here. Let him
I
answer.
didn't know if you knew. Okay. Wrong guy to ask. Okay. Never mind.
Go ahead.
If I can answer that real quick. So right now with accreditation, this August, we'll do a mock accreditation for the police department to see where we stand with national standards and if we have to make any corrections. In December, that's when we have two representatives from CALEA coming into the department, going over our files and reports to make sure we're doing what we're saying we are doing. And so with that, in December, we're gonna ask for the community to give us a hand with that, because the accreditation management needs to know that the community supports us in this endeavor.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So we got about a year.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Cross for planning board.
Good evening. I came to Newington in the 1970s as an Air Force pilot flying these noisy airplanes, the KC-135s over here. In brief, as a background, I spent over 20 years as an officer of 2 engineering degrees and another in research and development. I was a professor and a flying instructor at the Air Force Academy in Colorado, and I was a lead development engineer for airborne radar and combat identification systems for the U.S. Air Force AWACS, warning and control airplanes. I retired in the early 1990s. My wife Cindy, we built the house across the street from the library here. I continued on with a second career, this one developing similar equipment for not only the U.S. but allied air forces around the world. And during that time period is when I joined the planning board in 1994. At the same time, I became the town representative for the Rockingham Planning Commission, which is a great training resource for planning and development. So it's been over 20 years on each of those 2 boards. I have 2 passions I want to talk to you about tonight, and then this transportation and a rural residential character. They mean a lot to me, and I know they mean a lot to this town. There are more, and it's not just a passion for me, but it's important for Newington, because we have more people and goods going through our town than actually live here. And that has been that way for centuries, from the days of the ferries, the bridges, and all the routes that have gone through here. Other transportation areas, in the 1990s, I led the development to ensure that the big gas pipeline that currently goes along Arboretum Drive was supposed to go under the power lines here. was able to lead and push that through the selectmen, with the selectmen's help to actually ensure that it went through the PDA Arbor Green Drive property and put that danger a little further away, as beneficial as it is. There's a walking bike path at the end of Fox Point Road that leads to the trade port. I staffed that proposal through the Rockingham Planning Commission to make sure its priority was raised and identified, and we were able to get most of the funding from the Department of Transportation to do that actual connection. I've been, in the 90s, I was a member of the Department of Transportation Route 16 corridor study between Conway and the seaport here. And a few years later, I chaired the Spalding Turnpike Advisory Task Force of citizens that provided input to the arrangement and suitability of the Spalding Turnpike that you see being completed just finally this year. And probably the most impactful transportation development was the Industrial Corridor Roadway, now known as Shattuck Way. Myself, Planning Board Chairman Dennis Hebert, and the rest of the Planning Board, we conceived that, staffed it, and actually developed that through. And that's significant because a major portion of our industrial might on the other side, and the new development that roadway enabled provides over 30% of our tax base today.
Chris, I just wanted you to notice that you have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. As much as I like transportation, there's nothing more important to Cindy and I believe all the rest of you, and that is our rural residential character that we have here. Now, it's undergone development from pastures and fields that some people know well of in the past years, and it'll continue to go under pressure as it gets further development on there. It is a particular sense of place for our residential homes, and we have to fight to keep it that way because it's not like the standard residential development, and to keep it that way is taking some work with the planning board. There will be no new land, only reuse the land that's there, larger parcels passed down in families and come up for development. It's a right of every landowner to develop their land as they and their family sees fit, and they or the developers are entitled to do that, but it's within the zoning ordinances and the rules that we have set out that show respect for the neighbors and those of us that are still here and the evidence of the town. So my approach is on the board is not so much how I like the owner of the particular proposal, it's how it conforms to those ordinances. So that's a little bit about me, and if I'm lucky enough to receive your vote next week, I do want something else from you, and that's how I want you to talk to me. I want you to tell me what I do not see. I want you to share your concerns. I want you to ask my reasons. Give a caveat, I don't give short answers. Tell me if I'm making a fatal error, and the rest of the board does all the time, so I can take it.
And
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
So, the next person on the list, actually, I want to ask Jamie, do you want me to put on the spot? You came in right when it would have been your time to speak, so I'm going to let you have the option to if you wish.
Oh, sure, I mean, okay.
Okay, so.
I just got out of work, I don't have anything prepared.
So you have 5 minutes, and then I'll give you a 2-minute
I
warning.
definitely will not take 5 minutes.
And, okay, just letting you know. So this is Jamie Belanger, everybody, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jamie Belanger. I have my name in for the budget committee. First of all, I want to thank everyone who's here. We don't have a big town, but we have a lot of people here participating. That's pretty awesome. So, and all the candidates, I have a big respect for all of you for taking your volunteer time to go up and try to do something for the town. That's really important. We have a system where we have a budget committee that reviews the budget that has been put forth. The purpose of the budget committee is, I think, really to have a second set of eyes looking at the budget to make sure that the money that is raised from us, the taxpayers, is used properly. Every time I go into a budget meeting, I try to take off all my other hats that I'm wearing and just think, okay, what is right for the taxpayers? And what is the appropriate use of these funds? We don't want to raise more taxes than we need. We don't want to spend needlessly. We want to try to be efficient and wise with what we're doing. We don't want to be cheap. We want to be frugal in how we use our funds. So that's what I think about when I prepare myself every time going into these budget meetings, and just try to do the right thing for the taxpayer. Sometimes it's not always the popular decision or the right, or what someone's opinion is of the right thing to do, but I certainly try to do it from the perspective of what is the point of having a budget committee and doing that job as well as I can. That's what we try to do. So thank you for all of you for showing up and putting in your time.
We still had 2 minutes. Does anybody
So
want a
anyone else
question?
can have it.
I yield my time to the floor.
Jamie, are you already on the budget committee?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Next
Well,
is-
until the next election. We'll see.
Another week, right?
All right, Jack O'Reilly.
Hi, I'm Jack O'Reilly, running for second term as town moderator. Thanks all for coming. I think most of you know me, I know most of you, so it makes it easier on town meeting day. I've been a resident of Newington for over 42 years. I reside with my wife in a house that her grandfather owned before her and her mother grew up in, so it's been around for a while. I have a bachelor's degree in nuclear engineering and a master's degree in school administration. I was a certified principal for a number of years before I retired from teaching. I was a physical science teacher at Portsmouth High School for 11 years and got to teach a number of our students, a number of our residents who are now students, were now residents, I should say. And then one here, there's another married to another one over there. So I don't know if it's the water in Newington or it's good enough, but I have a lot of bright kids from Newington. And I was fighting that over the full-day kindergarten. Like I grew up in Wilmington, next town over, so I know that area too. And I did work with Chris as a selectman for a while, and I did say, Chris, if I ask you what time it is, I don't need how to build a watch. Chris is always full of information. I have a daughter and son-in-law live in town, 3 grandchildren live in town. I have a son who's a police officer in town, so we have a lot of connection throughout. Other grandkids scattered, but that's my connections to Newington. 32 years ago, well, I was typing for the Newington neighbor, and I was complaining about my tax bill. They'd gone over $400. So she said, well, do something about it. So I ran as a write-in for budget committee 32 years ago, and I haven't stopped since. I've had elected position at least at one time or another. The whole 32 years, at least one board or another. Probably a library trustee chair. I'm just leaving the school board. Because of that, I'll be leaving the budget committee and facility moderator. And I keep saying, people say this all the time, but probably the last time I'll be on the ballot. About time I think I've passed the baton. People say you say that all the time, but it's time, I think, to pass it along. It's been a great run, I've enjoyed it. When the moderator job came open, I said, gee, it looks kind of interesting, and I like talking to people, as Laura knows. And I said, get to standing at the ballot box. Boy, I get to meet a lot of people, get to talk to a lot of people, and I do enjoy it. It's a lot of complicated work, more than I thought. I've already been to 2 seminars this year. Tomorrow I have a webinar, I'll do moderating, and then we're gonna run 800 ballots through the machine tomorrow to test it and make sure it works. It makes it real fast to get the results, and well, 1 week and about 10 minutes from now, we'll start running the printer out so you get at least preliminary results. We won't have write-in results yet. So it's a lot quicker than hand counting and doing all the little lines. there's a lot of work involved on the other end, so it saves some time here, it gains a lot of time there. Okay, I guess that's pretty much it. If anybody has any questions, I've been on almost every board and every committee, either as elected, appointed, or a selectman rep. I haven't done a planning board, and thank you, but no thank you. I see how hard they work, and I'll tell you, it's a tough job. Cemetery and sewer, and that's been about it. So I've got to see a lot about what's going on in town, and we'll see how it goes from there.
Jack?
Yeah.
Let me ask a question. How's the voting machine working for time for at the polls versus what we had before?
Well, the machine and I have become friends.
I know.
Fortunately, it took a while. If it rains out, oh God, could they stick? I've got to, learn how to open it up and jam. But it's quick. As long as it's like any machine, as long as it's working well. Once the ballot, I close the polls at 7.
Mm-hmm.
We run a card through. It's called an enter card, and that shuts off any more votes. If something gets rejected, it goes into a sign slot. We can count it by hand. It's got a little baffle on it. You can hear it going back and forth. Any write-ins, it'll shoot on one side, so we can pull them out separate. Hopefully, what's called an override. If someone votes for 4 instead of 3 or 2 instead of 1, it'll kick that over. It's tougher than a town election because there's so many different
It
positions.
seems to be a lot faster than it was when we.
You get the results a lot quicker. You're not
Yeah.
sitting there counting everyone and
Exactly.
making sure they match the numbers
Right.
coming in, and you're not, hand counting. There'll be some hand counts because the school is a total write-in. I expect there'll be a number of write-ins on the planning. The planning will have a lot. No, the town will have a lot of write-ins. The planning's pretty straightforward. That's it. So about 10 minutes past 7 next week, we should have preliminary results. Again, it won't have to be write-in, they'll have to be hand counted. So, see me next week. Don't forget, next Tuesday, 7 to 11, Saturday, the 14th.
We're paying attention.
7 to 11, 11 to 7. So when I was teaching school and I did something like that, I'd tell the kids, "I just see if you were paying attention." I'm glad you were, Mike.
Thank you, Jack.
Thanks, Jackie. Peter Welch.
Peter, the last shall be first.
Hi, I'm Peter Welch. I'm running for a second term as library trustee. I've lived in town now for 5 years. Very much enjoy working with Board of Trustees. And we've accomplished a few things since I've been on board. We did a new water service, which eliminated the sprinkler system pumps, so that saves us $500 a year. And between Laura picking out the lights and Dennis working on the spacing, we installed these new walkway lights. And now we're working on the parking lot, and we need your vote come Tuesday on $80,000 for expansion of the parking lot.
Saturday.
Pardon?
You said Tuesday.
Saturday, sorry. So, any questions? No?
No, where's the expansion of the parking lot, which side?
This side,
Just continue.
in parallel to the building, about just 20 feet beyond the existing lot, and then extending 100 feet or so. And that will be about the same, 12 inches below the existing floor for improved handicap access, and we'll add a second catch basin because we have flooding in the parking lot now. That's it?
Thank you.
Yes.
There's plenty more time, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Could you just highlight the lovely bench that's outside? Talk about that.
The bench over there?
Yes.
My father's bench?
Yes,
Yeah.
your father's bench. Tell us about that.
Well, the library trustees at that time gathered funds and built the bench in his honor. Yeah, and this was the rug that was in their house.
Very interesting, thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
So that actually concludes this portion of the evening with our candidates speaking. However, in past years, everyone always seems to have a burning question or two for someone that didn't get asked. So it is up to whoever, if you have any questions for someone who didn't, oh my goodness, is this gonna be the year that nobody had? Anyway, so if you did have any burning questions, I would allow you to ask and then allow the candidate to choose whether they wish to answer or not, because you're all officially off the hook according to me right now. Did anyone have a burning question that they still want to ask?
It's not a question, I just want to make a statement about Peter. Peter's not only on the library committee, but I also know he's on the planning board.
Right.
He's been doing that an awful lot, it's a lot of work, so he does an awful lot for the town. So I don't know if he's on any other boards or not, Peter, I think that's it, right?
That's it.
But I just want to say, you know, he's a really hard worker and dedicated to this town.
Good question, Peter.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you all so much, and please stay for just a few moments longer, those of you who are candidates, so that you can speak to whomever would like to ask you questions one-on-one. And I have a hand over here.
Sorry, I just wanted to say, just so everybody knows, I'm Samara Robertson, and I'm asking for write-in for school board. I was a little late to the gate on signing up, but I'm really excited. I have a little form out there just about myself, my contact, my email, my background, and I'm not supposed to talk.
Former student.
School board, Samara Robertson. Thank you.
Thank you for telling us.
All right.
Thank you, Laura.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for